Hello and welcome to Beyond the Game on Idea Television. On the show, we go beyond the game to champion integrity and inclusivity in sports through cutting-edge technology, research, and innovation. My name is Dearest Stemba. And of course, today we'll be talking about an interesting topic that concerns Africa as a whole. But before all of that, to join the conversation, do not forget to follow us across all our social media platforms at Idea Television or send us a message to our Gmail at ideatelevision@gmail.com. But now we'll go on a break. When we come back, we'll introduce the topic. And of course, I have a guest with me on the show today. So stay tuned. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're right on track. This is Beyond the Game on Idea Television. Of course, I am joined with an amazing gentleman. He's none other than Cyprian Akomaye, a sports writer and a sports analyst. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Welcome to the show.
Always a pleasure.
All right. So I talked about the topic of today. Yeah, today we'll be talking about sports development in Africa. Now, a little bit of background and importance of sports development in Africa focuses on improving access, infrastructure, and participation in both grassroots and professional sports. Sports contribute to economic growth, youth development, and social inclusion. The African sports industry is valued at over $20 billion, yet faces challenges in funding, governance, and infrastructure. See why? Welcome to the show once again.
Thank you. Okay.
Before we go into the topic proper, do you want to tell us a bit about sports business in Africa?
Sport business in Africa is a very, very, very lucrative one, okay, if done rightly. Okay, it's a very lucrative one if done rightly because lots of potential and it can even go, like it can be scalable. Okay, it's actually very scalable. So running sports in Africa is a very good gold mine, a very huge gold mine that has, will I say, yet to be tapped into. We don't see a lot of these. We don't get, for the amount of talents we have in Africa, we don't get the amount of exposure that we need to shine. Okay, and I think if someone can tap into that, it will be a very, very huge gold mine, both for the continent, the talents in the continent, and then whoever is running it. So it's a very, very, very good one. Very good one.
All right. The words of Cyprian Akomaye. Anyways, here's some of the challenges that hinder sports development in Africa: poor sports infrastructure and lack of quality stadiums, training facilities, equipment that limits athletes' development. Now, Africa has won the World Cup once.
Yeah.
And that was when South Africa hosted it in 2010.
Yes.
And ever since, no African nation has attempted. But in 2030, Morocco will be co-hosting alongside Portugal and Spain. Now, can we rightly say that sports in Africa has grown since the 2010 World Cup?
Yeah, sports in Africa, to be honest with you, in all honesty, sport in Africa has really grown. Okay, since 2010. Okay, we see a lot of, let's use football as an example. Okay, we see a lot of good football facilities, like standard football facilities, springing here and there. Okay, even in Nigeria, if we streamline it, like narrow it down to Nigeria alone, you see a lot of very good standard pitches, okay, being used in the Nigerian league. Clubs are now investing more, okay, on their pitches, their facilities, their offices and others. Let's use Remo Stars, for
All right.
example, okay. I recently saw a video online, okay, about their facilities, and like I was really impressed. I never knew that something like that could be achievable in the Nigerian league, okay, and that's just Remo Star, or we don't know about others, okay. So it has really improved since 2010. We see a lot of, even in the Kenyan league, the Kenyan Premier League, we see a lot of good facilities springing here and there. Okay, Morocco is another country that is doing very well when it comes to facilities. No wonder they were able to co-host, like, or to co-bid for the 2030 World Cup and eventually won. Now, I even saw recently an image online. If you see the amount of world-class stadiums that
In Africa.
in Africa, Morocco in particular. So Africa has come a long way since 2010. I think 2010 was an eye opener, okay, for other African countries that we can actually do these things. Initially, no African country ever dared or even conceived the idea of wanting to host the FIFA World Cup at senior level, like the International FIFA World Cup.
Yeah.
We can only bid for under 17, under 20 African countries. We see African countries bidding for all those ones, but no African country has even had the audacity to bid for the FIFA World Cup. But since South Africa did that, okay,
Yeah.
we see a lot of improvements all around the continent when it comes to facilities, standard. Okay, the just concluded AFCON is another like pointer to show that we have really come a long way from where we were before.
True.
The facilities were on point. Okay, preparation, even the way these players are catered for, before and after matches, all these things have really improved. So I think the World Cup in South Africa was an eye-opener, a very good one, that has really shown the way, like how football and how sports can be run on this continent, which is a very good one.
All right, you made mention of the AFCON in Cote d'Ivoire.
Yeah.
I must really commend Cote d'Ivoire as a nation for, hosting and giving us a beautiful
A very
AFCON to
solid
watch.
AFCON.
I mean, went from referees blowing whistles at
In 90,
89 minutes or 85 minutes. Of course, if you ask the referee, he had family emergencies. But then went from that to, seeing VR come into play, seeing... the AFCON was so good that even Jose Mourinho had a lot to say about it. And that was like the most watched, the best tournament that took place. That was last year. Last year. And yes, it's a testament to how far African group football is growing. But are we really there?
Mind you, that same 2024, Copa America took place.
Yes.
Asian Football Championship took place.
Euro.
AFCON took place. Euros took place.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, apart from the Euros, AFCON was the most talked about.
True.
Not even the Copa America that showcased the likes of Lionel Messi and others. Okay, so that shows how improved the tournament has been. Okay, not even minding what Jimmy Carragher said recently. He's
about
just
the AFCON.
Yeah, I think he's delusional. He's not.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Carragher came out to say that the AFCON is not a major tournament when he talked about Mo Salah's chances of winning the Ballon d'Or, saying that if Salah stands a chance to win the Ballon d'Or, he has to play a major tournament, maybe go on to win the UCL, which I think Liverpool might win. But then coming out to talk about the AFCON in that regard was really disrespectful. And of course, trust Africans. We gave him...
Yeah, in a way. Okay. That was very disrespectful, but I think we opened the door to disrespects like that. Okay, because we see a lot of players turning down the opportunity to play for their national teams at the AFCON. You don't hear that when it comes to Euros. Every player is dying to go and represent their country. Same with Copa America. Every player is rushing. They want to make the list. But in AFCON, when it comes to AFCON, you see a lot of players withdrawing, like trying to draw body. They don't want to take part because, number one, some of them might lose their spots.
In the
at their-
starting 11,
in the
obviously.
starting 11 at their various clubs. Number two, if you get injured, the club may just do you on tour. They will not take care of you. They will not take care of you again. So there are lots of things, okay, going on in the background. We saw what happened to Sadiq Abubakar, okay, that withdrew from the squad.
Yeah.
Only for him to play 3 days later.
I mean, it took the world by
his club
shock.
side.
Like, how did that happen?
So how did that? What magic? How did he recover in 3 days? So these are some of the openers, okay, because of some of these attitudes by African players.
Yeah.
So that is why some of these Europeans or some of these people have the guts. That's why they have the guts to even say such a
Look
thing.
down on
You can't say that about the Copa America. You can't say that about
the Euros.
the Euros. The Asian Championship is not even it should not even be put in this bracket, in this conversation. But then it's hugely disrespectful to the AFCON and Africa as a continent that someone can say that, though he has come out to apologize, that it was a misunderstanding. People misinterpreted
What he said.
But then we all know Jimmy Carragher. He runs his mouth anyhow. Okay, so
I mean, not just Jimmy Carragher.
we gave him that platform.
Right?
We gave him that platform.
But just to clear people's doubts, AFCON is a major tournament, regardless of what Jimmy Carragher has to say about the AFCON. And playing for your nation, for me, I always say this, especially with African players, I feel like they have this lackadaisical attitude when it comes to playing for their national team. And I don't like it. I mean, I love Victor Osimhen. I think he's one player from Nigeria that I admire a lot, not just because of his work ethic, or because anytime he's called upon, regardless of the circumstance, he's always ready to fight for the Eagles jersey. I wish other players can emulate that. Playing for your nation should be the biggest honor. And I think it starts with these players. If they can respect that badge, the country more, the African nation, I think the world will take us more seriously, because there's so much money in African football, believe me. And it's not been harnessed properly. And not just football. I feel like anytime we talk about African sports and sports development in Africa, we only focus on football. And if I'm being honest, I feel like football take most of the money. Let's say there's like an allocation for sports. I think football might take 80%. And I wouldn't blame, if football takes so much, because football, for me, I feel like that's like the easiest, I like to call it the easiest, and maybe the cheapest to run kind of sport, and the most popular sport. But the truth is, what people don't know, we have over 200 recognized sports in the world, and 8,000 unrecognized sports across the globe. So there's so much sports. Now, I want to talk about rugby, for example. Now, it's not so popular here in Nigeria, but in South Africa, they've won it 4 times. They've won the Rugby World Cup 4 times. And they're not doing so well. The Bafana, they not do so well for the South African nation. But when it comes to rugby, they are dominating. We have others. We have the BAL. It's a basketball competition that happens in Africa, and there's just so much. And the thing is, it takes me back to the one time I went to watch an MBBF. That's like just like we have the NPFL, but this is for basketball, and you can just see the stadiums
empty.
There was no lights. If you're someone that have watched maybe Cleveland Cavaliers play or the Milwaukee Bucks, and you watch that, you'll be like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
And I feel like they should, they should really try to harness other sports.
So I think this whole thing boils down to structure.
Okay.
Okay. In Africa, we lack that structure. Okay. Or maybe the fear of being scammed by 1 or 2 persons. It's restricting us. Now, in countries like Kenya, okay, Kenya is known for dominating long-distance races.
Sure.
Okay. Now, what they do there, they go to the grassroots. Now, they organize inter-school competitions.
Okay.
Okay. They do a lot of competitions in the background. Nobody knows about it, but they do. Okay. Now, from there, they start developing and getting their champions. This champion progresses to the next stage, competes with other champions. Okay. They pick the best from there, the best. And that is why they have been so good when it comes to long distance races.
They've really dominated.
So they are investing more in that area. Okay, recently, I think sometime just last week, I didn't even know we had a rugby team in Nigeria. Okay. Now, the Nigerian rugby team signed a deal with Nike. Okay, to become their official kit maker. Okay, so when I saw it, I was like, So we even have a rugby team. I only know of the cricket. I know of the cricket team. We have a cricket team. A friend of mine is part of
Okay.
cricket team. So to an extent, they are trying to branch, okay, invest in other areas. But then, football will always be football. You can't do it. You can't stop that.
I mean, I once talked about the fact that football is like is an easy sport. I don't know if it's really an easy sport because growing
football
up
is
with
contagious.
boys in the house, you see them, they'll wrap their
Yes,
socks
it's
and
actually
they use
contagious.
it.
When you drop a ball in front of a kid that has never seen people playing football before,
He'll just want to kick it.
the natural instinct is to kick it. So that like somehow it has become a natural thing for football
and
is
very
just
easy compared to other sports.
yes.
I mean, I still don't understand how cricket works until this moment. So yeah, some of the other challenges African sports faces is the fact that they lack world-class training centers for athletes. Also have limited government and private sector investment into sports funding. The most resources going to football. We just said that. I wouldn't blame if most resources go to football. But then let's talk about the stadiums. Now, before the show started, I talked about the fact that the Moshood Abiola Stadium is, when it comes to size capacity, is bigger than the Emirates Stadium. But can you really compare the Moshood Abiola Stadium to the Emirates Stadium?
It's incomparable.
I mean, no.
We have the difference between the Emirates and Moshood Abiola Stadium is the Emirates is being maintained.
True.
Moshood Abiola Stadium is not. We have cows going to poo-poo.
To watch the game?
To go and watch games and then poo-poo around the stadium. There was a time I think I heard a reporter saying that when he was stepping in, he even stepped on poo-poo.
It's that bad.
That bad. Is that bad? Okay, how many times do we see competitions taking place at the Moshood Abiola Stadium? But the Emirates is being constantly used. And because of that, it's being maintained regularly. This one is actually... To be honest with you, I can clearly say it's a failed project. I can clearly say it's a failed project because we can't have we can't have a stadium like the Moshood Abiola Stadium, okay? And the last time we played a football match there, it was catastrophic, okay, because of the vandalism and the crowd issues. But ask yourself this question: even before that game, when last did we play a football match? When last did our national team play a football match?
At the Moshood
Abiola Stadium, even before that game.
You think that's why they rather go to the Uyo Township Stadium in Akwa Ibom State?
There are lots of reasons for that. Number one, they've told you security.
Okay.
Number two, the Moshood Abiola Stadium is the best of nest in Akwa Ibom. Okay. Geographically favors the players. You know, the south is not as warm as hot as the north. So there are lots of reasons. But then, this stadium is wasting. You don't. What do we even use it for? These days is prayer meeting. People do around here crusade.
Okay.
It's a football stadium, for God's sake. A lot of money was spent on that project. Every time you keep hearing them, we are projecting 2 billion to renovate. Renovate what you don't use. You renovate and you don't use it. Every time we keep hearing things like this. So it's a failed project, as far as I'm concerned. You don't use it. Look at the Emirates. The Emirates is a world-class stadium.
And should we even talk about the kind of money Emirates generate on a regular compared to what is being generated at the Moshood Abiola Stadium?
One of the reasons why South African football is doing well right now, even though we are not seeing results on the pitch, okay, administrative-wise, okay, structure-wise, there's no league. Okay, the South African league is in the top 2 or top 3 in Africa when it comes to structure and organization.
Yeah.
Okay, you see them going to Europe to buy players. Like, they do world-class transfers. No gimmicks. Now, one of the reasons why they are successful is that after the 2010 World Cup, these stadiums were not abandoned. They were given to clubs to handle. And if you are going to be using this facility, you definitely have to be maintaining it.
True.
Good. And so money was brought out. So the maintenance, it was a continuous process. After the World Cup, it continued. Look at the stadium here. Since the last time we played that match,
was it the World Cup qualifier?
What could the year
Nigeria,
against
Ghana?
See today, how many football matches has taken place there?
Yeah.
Almost none. There's no at national level that we have heard. I think the last time we had was female team, and it was almost empty. The stadium was almost empty. Just one side of it was occupied by
Well, I was there.
I know, I saw you. You were there. I know you were
You know,
there.
someone made a joke, right?
Yeah.
He said, "Do you know the famous Didier Drogba celebration, where he slides with his knee?"
Yeah. Go and do it there
He
now.
said, "You can only try that in Europe. You
Go and
don't
do, go
want to
and do
try
it.
it
Go and
at the
do it there
Moshin
now.
Abiola Stadium."
They'll
And
come and pack your bone.
it's sad that
It's really sad.
in 2025 we don't really. Okay, let me use Nigeria because I'm Nigerian. We don't have like a standard stadium. At least let Nigeria be hosting AFCONs. Even if we don't want to start bidding for the World Cup, let's start with AFCONs. I mean, don't you think Nigeria? We can't just say we are the
can't.
giant of Africa. And when was the last time we hosted the AFCON?
We can't.
And it's sad, but that's the
We
reality
can't. We
of that.
can't. The reality on ground is that our facilities are not good enough. Look at what Cote d'Ivoire did. Cote d'Ivoire, economically, is not even quarter of what we are. Okay? They are like 1/4 of what we
True.
are right now. Cote d'Ivoire as a country, in size, Nigeria is still bigger than Cote d'Ivoire.
True.
But look at what they pulled up. We can't do that. I don't know what is the problem. So the problem is still boils down to corruption. Somebody somewhere is consuming all the money. Somebody somewhere is sitting on it. Okay, so look
So
at the
are you saying
facilities.
government interference also has?
That is a very big problem because if the government interferes in football, we can get a ban from FIFA. In 2014, we experienced that. FIFA banned Nigeria for 2 years.
Okay.
In 2014, because the government then interfered and removed the NFF president and replaced him with someone else. And against FIFA ethics, that is wrong. Very wrong. It's unacceptable. The government does not have the right. All football associations should exist independently of their government. The government can fund them, but the government does not have the power to remove the president, do some certain changes. So Nigeria got a ban, though they pleaded, and I think it was reduced to some months or years, something like that. But the government can only interfere to make things better. The government cannot, like, outrightly come and take over the entire thing.
Okay.
These associations still needs to be independent.
All right. Now, some other problems that are facing the development of African football, we have lack of grassroots development programs. Now, few youth academies and talent identification programs exist outside of football. Now, this gets me a lot because in Nigeria we have so many, academies, football academies, right? But can we confidently say that after going into that academy, you are going to play, in professional football? The chances,
yes.
Because I've interviewed so many people from academies, and you hear them saying, "Oh, for you to even make it, let's say we are 1,000, it's 1 out of 1,000, right?" And why are the others fighting? What are they really fighting for there? And that one person is Grace. Really, Grace has to find you.
It's not really Grace.
Oh, we know.
Godfatherism,
or
yes.
all of this. Why
So,
can't... Because if we invest in grassroots football, we can really get talent because we have so many talent that are waiting to be harnessed. And that's why you hear people... Many people you talk to, even among your colleagues, you hear them be like, yes, football was, originally what I wanted to do. But no, you just had to switch because we don't have that in Africa.
Okay, but let me shock you.
All right.
Now, it's not only common to Africa,
Okay.
peculiar to Africa. Okay. Now, as a professional footballer, even in Europe, though your chances are higher there.
Obviously.
Okay. But then, do you know how many players each club have in the academy? They have under 18, under 15, under 14, under 12, under 9. There's still even under 11.
Well, I'm sure they will have categories
there's
for
under
people
7. There's under 7
Yeah.
and others. You have more than 1,000 each academy. Each football club, okay, has more than like 1,000 academy players, okay? But then, how many do you see making it to the professional level? And that is why it's called an academy, okay? Now, what they do is, while you are training with them, okay, they will enroll you in a school, okay? So, in case football doesn't work for you, you have a certificate that you can use to work out there,
All right.
okay? Lamine Yamal, even during the Euros, was still doing assignments from school, okay? Because he was promoted at that stage of his career. He wasn't expected to be where he was, okay, or where he is right now, okay? So he was still going to school, even while he was at the Euros. He was still doing assignments and others. So now, it's just like you said, 1 in every 1,000.
Sure.
Not only in Africa, even in Europe. Just that it's worse in Africa. In Africa, it may be 1 in 1 million. Because you see a lot of super talented players. Go around Abuja right now. If anything from 4 p.m. this evening, you see boys coming out
in mass
to play football. When you go around and look at these guys, when you even record them, you'll be shocked. There are so many amazing talents.
But then, I feel like in Europe, they're like scouting agents that really go out to grassroots.
They are even in Africa.
But I feel like Africa, is it really working? Because there are so many players that they don't even know if there's a chance for them to play.
It is.
And I also want to talk about the fact that, okay, even when it comes to team selections for the Super Eagles, why are we only focusing on players that are abroad? Oh, they're already playing in maybe Arsenal. He's already doing great. Let's start fighting for him to come back. Why not focus on those people playing in our local leagues? What's wrong with bringing players?
That's actually a very big problem. It's actually a very big problem because now, number one, if you look at these players that are locally made or that are based here, okay, some of them are very good, outrightly. You can't take that away from them. But then, do they have the right mindset?
All right.
Do they have the right mentality? That's a very big question mark that a lot of them needs to that you need to be sure they can handle that pressure at the international level.
But if you don't give them the opportunity, would you ever know?
And that's why you have friendly matches.
I mean, Sonny Bass scored the winning goal in AFCON.
That's why you have friendly matches.
All right.
Now, friendly matches are opportunities for you to test these guys. Okay? You don't necessarily have to put them in the game. Okay? Let them just experience the outing. Let them just be in the squad. Get to meet these international players. It's exposure. Once you create that atmosphere where home-based players begin to feel relaxed that if I play well in the league, okay, I can be promoted to play or be with the national team, a lot of them will improve. But most of them are not given that encouragement at all. Most of them don't even get that opportunity. Okay, so they just play and have fun in the Nigeria. And by the way, the Nigerian league has really improved when it comes to remuneration for players, paying players.
Okay.
Some players earn up to 2 million in Nigerian league.
Oh.
Yes, players are earning big in the Nigerian league right now. I think Rivers United also. They even have like a football, like a quarters for them where these players stay, rest, eat, and so they are improving. Just that we don't know about some of these developments.
All right, I feel like we are getting there. But we'll go on a break now. When we come back, we're talking about how do we really fix most of these challenges. Welcome back to Beyond the Game, right here at the Idea Television. We've been talking about sports development in Africa. We've had a lot to say about, how poorly funded and all of this. But then, how do we really get to that point where we'll be like, okay, sports in Africa is really growing?
Destroy the house and build it from the ground.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
Destroy
because
the house
sport has been the hope for the common man. If you look at it from a critical look, sport has given jobs to so many people.
So many people.
Let me use a football game for example. During a football game, there's not just footballers like the football players. No, we have the medical staff. We have the people. There's so many people behind the scene that comes together. Nutritionists, even journalists. So many people have benefited one way or the other.
Their bus driver is.
Or people. There's so much to be. There's so much money in sport.
Yeah.
Because sports covers a lot of things. So how can Africa really harness all of this? And
let me use analogy.
Okay.
Or this example. let's use the English national team or the English FA
All right.
as our case study. Okay, before 2014, we all know what to expect from the English national team.
Okay.
Their normal style of football. Boom, 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 boom. If they score, they score. There was no pattern of play. Okay. Most of the English national teams, the highest they get to tournament, apart from the the World Cup that they won, and then the final. Then let's take that one and keep that one aside.
All right.
Now, most times they crash out in the round of 16, quarterfinal. That's if they even do very well.
Yeah.
Okay, or group stage. They don't even get to the semi-final stage. But look at the English national team for the past 10 years. Now, they did something. They went back to the grassroots. They started restructuring their football from the grassroots. Now, the under-17 team has won the World Cup. That was something that had not been done in like 40 to 50 years. Their women national team won the Euros. Okay, so they started from the bottom. Okay, and look at even the senior national team is reflecting. They have gone to back-to-back finals, and even went to the semi-final of the 2018 World Cup. So it shows that even though they are not winning the World Cup yet, or the very big trophies yet, that they are making progress.
True.
If there's one thing we need to learn from them, it's how they did it. They went back to the grassroots, started afresh, and started coming up. In Africa, we get a lot of under-17 World Cup champions, okay? But when they get to the senior team, or even before they get to 28, 27, their career is already down. Chrysanthus is one of the examples. Macaulay, Chrysanthus. He won the most valuable player alongside, what's the name of this guy? Tony Cruz. Tony Cruz and I think Bojan Krikic. Okay. Bojan's career may not be the best, but it was decent. Okay. Tony Cruz is one of the greatest footballers of all time. Today. And Tony Cruz, funny enough, Tony Cruz came third. Chrysanthus, that was the MVP. After that tournament, nobody heard about him. Now, cheating is one of the issues. Chrysanthus, anybody can tell me Chrysanthus was 17 years old.
That's a topic for another day.
Yes. So, until we start being sincere with ourselves, we won't get it right. And that is common in Africa. We lie a lot when it comes to sports. There's one Nigerian player right now that is even still playing. I don't want to mention any name. Okay? That looks like a 50-year-old man, but he's 21. 21 on paper. Whereas if you look at his face, you will know that this man minimum should be 44.
I mean, that's why we didn't really feature in the under-17 at some point, because they brought out...
There was a time that even in our under-17 camp here in Abuja, about 16 players were found guilty and they were banished. None of them was even 27. They were above 27.
Yeah.
But they were coming to play for the under-17 team. So until we tell ourselves the truth and go back to the grassroots, scatter the house and start from the bottom, we won't get it. We'll keep speculating.
Cyprian has said it all: scatter the house and rebuild
scatter it,
and maybe African sports will get it right. But any final words? But before you say any final word, do you think bringing private investors?
That's another issue. They have tried this so many times in the Nigerian league.
Okay.
It worked at some point and it didn't work at some point. So when investors are sure that they will get returns from you, they will invest. That is business. That is investment. You can't invest when you're not expecting any kind of return. That's your ROI is bad. So you need, until when you are convinced that this thing has potential, before you can invest. Now, in this case, in sports, in Africa, the potential is there, but the structure around it is hindering a lot of potentials. So now, until we fix that, investors will not see the need to invest. Look at South African League. Investors are investing heavily into their league because they have a structure. They have a structure, a functioning structure. The same thing with the Egyptian League, the same thing with Moroccan League. Okay? They are having structures. So when they have seen that there's a structure on ground, they will invest.
All right.
Right now we don't have any. Nothing.
All right, thank you so much, Siwa. Any final words before we end the show?
Scatter the house and break it from the bottom.
He's still adamant on scattering the house and rebuilding it. Well, we've said a lot, but sports development has, in Africa, yes, it might not have gotten to the point where we'll be like, okay, yes, we making so much from sport, but then there's potential, and sports business is something that will never end. It's a continuous thing. Every year it keeps
lucrative.
growing and growing and growing. I hope someday we're not just there, but someday even Nigeria as a nation will come together and say, you know what, we want to host the World Cup. I want to see that day happen. Anyways, thank you so much for being on the show with me.
You're welcome. Always a pleasure.
Do not forget to follow us across all our social media platforms at Idea Television. That's the much we can take on the show. I am Dearest Tumba. Thanks for watching.